Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Millie, and today I wanted to do a video on my fig tree. Now, I am new to growing figs in Utah, not new to growing figs in general. I grew them in California for many years. But Utah definitely has a lot different climate, and the fig trees seem to be reacting very differently than the figs in California. They're a little more difficult to grow. They have a few more hiccups that we've got to overcome. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I've done with my fig, share some of the successes, show you some of the areas where I didn't experiment on the figs and just let them go over the winter, and kind of talk a little bit and maybe hopefully get some feedback on what we can do to have better harvests of figs in Utah. So let me show you what I've done so far. Now I have two varieties of figs right here. The bigger one is a Chicago Hardy, and the smaller one is a Desert King. Now the Desert King I started from a cutting last year, and so this is the first winter that it's gone through, and I heavily protected it, and it did survive the winter. This was how big it was last year, and we're just starting to get new growth. Now from what I've heard on the Desert King figs is you really need to protect them because you want the Breba crop. The secondary crop, from what I've heard, and we're just going to find out if it's true or not, is not very productive. So we did get a couple of figs off of it that are developing. There's one right there, and there's another one right there. And as you can see, we've got some good growth. We don't have a lot of secondary growth. Now, as far as I understand, the figs develop in these leaf nodes. You can see this little tiny growth right here, as soon as the secondary growth starts. Let me show you what I've discovered on my Chicago Hardy. Now, this is a 3-year-old, well, I guess you wouldn't call it 3 years old, but it's gone through 2 winters already. This is its 3rd season. The first season it was brand new and I got figs off of it. It came with figs on it already developing. The second year, I tried to protect it over the winter, but I didn't do a good enough job, and it froze to the ground, and it's had to start its growth from the beginning. Now it hit 6 to 7 feet tall. It was a big tree, but it didn't start developing figs until July, and I put it to sleep over the winter with all the figs still on it. None of them ripened, and it was very depressing to see all those figs and not have them have time to ripen. So I watched a lot more videos, did some more research, and protected it very heavily over the winter. And here's the pictures of what I did. So I cut the fig back so it would be tall enough to fit into my little inner cage, and put some PVC pipe around it and wrapped the fig up so it was inside the PVC pipe. I then surrounded that by the silver insulation that you see, and on the outside of that I put a heavy layer of straw that was enclosed in a chicken wire cage. Then I covered the entire thing with greenhouse plastic, and I made sure when I covered the top with greenhouse plastic that the top could be removed separately so that I could leave it open in the fall. It was still protected from the freezes. I could cover it on the coldest nights and then open it up so it had time to go dormant. So it did go dormant. It went dormant a lot later than my other plants, but it did go dormant. And then in the spring I took it off and left it off even though we hit 20 degrees several nights in a row. And the 20-degree weather did not affect the tree at all. It came out of dormancy quite early. It came out of dormancy in April, and it developed what I thought there were more of them, but it looks like these four Breba figs developed. There might be a few more on there, but these are the ones that are easily seen. So we did get a tiny Breba crop, and then it started growing. And I noticed that we were not getting any of the little figlets developing on the leaf nodes. And I really wanted those to develop as early as possible. And then I remember a video I watched from Millennial Gardener that talked about how he pinched the tips of his figs. He pruned the tips of them off at the beginning of the season. And I really didn't have the time to look and see why he did that or how early he did that. But I thought about it and realized that the figs, I noticed it was when the secondary growth was coming out between the leaf nodes that the figs formed. So I thought if I could force that to happen a little earlier, then maybe the figs would start a little bit earlier. So 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, I went and pitched all the tips off any of the branches that were a foot long and longer. Let me show you what's happened. We got figs. So this is the 4th of June, and these figs will absolutely have time to ripen. We've got little new growth coming up all over the place and little figlets developing everywhere. Some over here. There are different stages of growth, but I am really excited. Now I'm going to be really excited to share with you at the end of the season if this has been able to ripen. And the other thing that I just realized I have not done yet is I have not been fertilizing these figs at all. So I may throw down some fertilizer and see if we can push some more new growth on these. But let me go show you over on the other side some of the figs that I didn't protect as well and that are in a little bit colder microclimate on my property. This is the south side up against the house, and let me show you the ones in my garden that's on the north side that still actually get full sun. Now this is the north side of my property, and it's really starting to fill in this year. This is its second year. And the figs on this side of the property, a couple of them I protected pretty heavily. Other ones I just threw some straw over the top to see what would happen, and let me show you what's happened with these. Now this is a fig that was supposed to be a improved Celeste, but people have told me from the leaf shape that it is definitely not a Celeste fig. It was protected as heavily as the ones on the south side, and most of it did survive. We got a lot of good new growth coming out of it, and a lot coming from the base, but it is definitely behind the one on the south side. Now I went through and just a week ago pinched these, and we are starting to get the new growth, and I've been looking for little figlets, and I'm really not seeing any yet. I'm a little worried about this. If it doesn't produce figs for me this year, I will replace it with hopefully one that is actually an improved Celeste. From what I've heard, this may be one of the Bordeaux varieties, but I am not sure. We'll see what happens with it. Now this is a Chicago Hardy that hardly had any protection at all, and this is what mine looked like last year this time of year. It will grow rapidly as soon as it decides it's time to start growing, which I think will be shortly here because it's warming up. And I'm going to let it get at least 2 feet tall and then pinch the tips, but by that time it may be July again, but we'll see if we can get any figs off this. This one's a little Negrone. I thought it was gone. I was getting ready to pull it out and noticed that we have some new growth on the tip right there. Now, I didn't think they grafted figs, but this one looks like it may be grafted, and it looks like the growth is coming from below the graft. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this one. We'll see what happens. Another name for this is Violette de Bordeaux. Now this last one came from a cutting from a friend that I'm going to put here in my front yard. Actually, I did put here in my front yard. And oh my heavens, I didn't even notice. Look at this. Unveil, we've got a fig on this brand new little cutting. Oh, I'm really excited about that. I did not think we were going to see figs on this for a year at least. But this is an unnamed variety that came from a fig tree that I think her grandparents had been growing for years here in Utah. It died to the ground over one of the winters a couple of years ago, and then as the cuttings came and as it started growing back up, she took some cuttings from it and propagated those, so she's not exactly sure what this is. But I'm excited to see that we're going to be able to taste a fig on it this year. And I'll update you and let you know how it tastes. So that is a quick update on my figs, and I'd love to hear updates on yours. I started a Facebook group called Utah Rare Fruit Growers, just so that we can share things like this, share information, and accelerate the process of learning how to grow these rarer plants in the state of Utah. I have several more that are rarely grown in Utah that a lot of other people are growing that I will share with you in different videos. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful garden adventure. I also hope that you share my videos with your friends, like and subscribe. That really helps my channel.